Gilbert?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Mrs. Detzel? Here. Mr. T-Short?
Here.
Mr. Yoshimura?
Here.
All right, so tonight we're going to start on a somber note. I want to introduce Joe Pollitt. We had a staff member, Mr. Paul Wade, who was a special education assistant at Northwest High School in our units there, who passed away at the beginning of the school year. And Joe is going to offer a eulogy on behalf of the district for the family.
Thank you, Mr. Yater. Good evening. We're here tonight to remember Paul Martin Wade, age 57, of Cincinnati, who passed away on August 7th, 2021. He was born April 18th, 1964, in Tacoma Park, Maryland, to Billy and Norman Wade. Paul was a man of many talents and interests. He was an avid runner, coach, and mentor with Queen City Running and Mojo Running. Paul loved to travel. Some of his favorite destinations were Ireland, Greece, and Sonoma. Between the ages of 10 and 15, Paul lived in Saudi Arabia and traveled throughout Africa and Europe with his father. Paul was most happy when working with kids. He was a Boy Scout troop leader with his son's troop, a climb instructor, mission trip leader, and teacher's aide working with special needs students at Northwest High School. In his personal life, he enjoyed playing with his granddaughter and great nieces and nephews. Paul is survived by his wife Joyce, sons Sam and Logan, his granddaughter Reagan, his parents Billy Ferguson and Norman Wade, his siblings Scott Wade and Nicole Hulsman, his father-in-law William Vogt, in-laws Charlene Vu and Michael Vogt, and many nieces, nephews, cousins, and friends. He is preceded in death by his paternal grandparents Hilda and Lee Wade, maternal grandparents William and Vivian Newbill, and many aunts and uncles. Paul's visitation was held on Friday, August 13th, and his funeral service was held the following day, both at St. Xavier High School's Walter Dye Performance Center. Paul joined the Northwest High School staff in 2013, serving as an aide for a student who used a wheelchair. He then transitioned to the role of educational assistant in our social skills unit classroom, where he spent the last few years of his career. Paul loved Northwest High School, and Northwest High School loved Paul. He always had a smile and a kind word for everyone, and he made it a point to talk to and get to know as many staff members as he could. Paul worked with one classroom in our career center, which meant he spent almost his entire day with a small number of staff and students in the smaller of the two buildings on campus. Despite this, he was well known and well liked by staff members all over campus. He was patient, helpful, dedicated, resourceful, and dependable. Last year, as staff members were pulled away from school due to quarantines, I leaned on Paul a lot to help with student supervision and classroom coverage, and he was always happy to help wherever we needed him. He truly had a servant's heart, and I think that is why he and Northwest High School embraced each other so well. One of our teachers was running in a race in Hyde Park this past Saturday, and he noticed there were several runners wearing a shirt that read, "In memory of Coach Paul," on the back. They were members of Paul's running club, and our teacher made the connection, and they all shared a few kind words and memories of Paul. I believe that Paul touched so many lives and made such an impact on those who knew him that chance encounters like this one this past Saturday in Hyde Park will become more frequent. We are missing Paul at Northwest, his smile, his positivity, his help, his friendly demeanor, and his presence in general. I speak for our entire staff when I say that we are grateful for the years he spent with us, and he will always have a special place in our hearts. At this time, we have a flower and a card for Paul's wife Joyce and Paul's mother Billy, who have joined us this evening.
And on behalf of the district, we just want to say our most sincere condolences to you and your family. And we sincerely want to thank you for sharing Paul with us. The stories that we've heard have been enlightening, and we appreciate the fact that we've had the ability to share some time with him.
And I'd like to thank you because Paul, what was really cool is he came to education late in his life, and I know he found it as his calling, and it was the first time I think he had a job that he really felt was his calling. So thank you for taking a chance on him when he didn't have experience in education, but truly became an educator. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to share that in the Senate Primary and Secondary Education Committee, the committee held sponsored testimony on Senate Bill 229, sponsored by Senator Lewis Blessing, which would temporarily extend the deadline to April 30th, 2022 for a school district to submit a blended learning model to the Ohio Department of Education for the 21-22 school year. The bill also would require a school district to provide internet access and devices to each student participating in blended learning, among other requirements. Additionally, Senate Bill 229 would prohibit the use of chronic absenteeism measure on the state report card for the 21-22 school year. So I thought that was important to note because it changes things as far as options, what our district would be able to do as far as transitioning if it comes to that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Student Achievement Liaison Report?
Yes, I'd like to introduce Brad Watkins, principal at Pleasant Run Middle School. He can introduce his team.
Good evening. Brad Watkins, proud principal at Pleasant Run Middle School. This evening I am joined by Mrs. Marley Stevens, our intervention coach at Pleasant Run Middle School, and we're here to share our beginnings in our journey with our Positive Behavior and Intervention Support System, or PBIS. Before, believe it or not, guys, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of the talking. I'm going to allow Ms. Stevens to speak this evening, right? And hopefully we get to hear, we will. You'll get to hear kind of where we are in our process from our very own students. But before I do that, I do want to make some special acknowledgments and some thank yous. First of all, to our board. Thank you very much for the support, getting this initiative up and running in our district, and in particular Pleasant Run. Mr. Gator, for all your guidance, appreciate it very much. But I also want to make mention and special mention to Dustin Gehring, Heidi Stickney. Those two have been instrumental in bringing this system district-wide and have been just a tremendous support, at the building level. As I'm sure many of my colleagues and principals will attest to, their support and guidance in these efforts is tremendous and much appreciated at the building level. Also want to thank, a very special thank you to Miss Jenny Blust. Jenny's been great in saying how we can use some of our federal kind of monies and thinking outside the box on how we can get this initiative up and running. Has been instrumental over the last 2 years being able for us to get a strong foundation to build upon moving forward. So with our PBIS system at Pleasant Run, we had the luxury of getting this kicked off in the middle of a pandemic in a virtual way. And really some of the things that we're going to speak to this evening started last year with the notion of how can we make school feel like school when we have just south of 50% of our kiddos on remote. How can we tether them to our building? How can we make sure that they're still feeling all the good feels about Pleasant Run Middle School, right? And having that connection to the building. And Marley Stevens was instrumental in that effort and advocating for our students and making sure that they felt like they were at school. So this is a little taste of what we're doing at Pleasant Run. But before we get to that, Ms. Marley?
All right, in the 2019-2020 school year, before we went to our March 2020 hit, we sent out a student survey in November, and in that survey, one of the most alarming things that our BLT building leadership team looked at was that only 48% of our students felt that their positive behaviors were acknowledged by staff members in our school, and we knew that we needed to make a very quick and very fast change in that program, or in that number. And so that sort of brought about our PBIS system. And with that, we knew that we needed to make sure that our students knew that we saw the good things that they were doing and acknowledged those. So as Mr. Watkins pointed out, with the help of Jenny Blust, we implemented our PBIS system, and with that, the Live School program. And through that system, we developed our Pride Matrix with our PBIS team, which had several different teachers, our counselors, and parent voices in it. We developed our Pride Matrix. At Pleasant Run Middle School, we say that our nights display positivity, respect, integrity, dependability, and excellence. And through that, there's a list of 3 skills in each one of those categories in which students earn positive points for. Those positive points are tracked through that Live School app, and then students have the ability to decide what it is that they want to use those points for. We set up an entire Live School store, and this was used for both our in-person and our remote students. I'm sure I scared the bejesus out of several parents when I came rolling up in my minivan and was like, hey, I have a t-shirt for so-and-so because they turned in their Live School points, and they were like, okay, thank you. So we had students earn everything from t-shirts to string bags to candy to chips we gave away, students earned 9 $25 GameStop gift cards. We worked really hard to allocate different funds, and we worked with our PTA, and they were amazing to help our students feel that we saw all the good things that they were doing. And that was definitely evident. We gave the exact same survey in the spring of 2021, and 73% of our students said that they felt that their positive behaviors were acknowledged by students. In addition to that, I did our first quarter incentive survey where students were able to fill out what it is that they want to be earning from earning these PBIS points, because it's so important for that student voice to come through. And through that, 77% of students said that earning those positive points impacted their behavior choices. So we can see that this is having a profound impact on our students' behavior, and it is making the school feel like a fun and safe place to be because they know that their positive choices are making a difference in their school day. And with that, we'll have them share their voices.
Here at Pleasant Run Middle School, nights display positivity, respect, integrity, dependability, and excellence. By showing these skills, we get to eat lunch outside, get t-shirts, water bottles, and little pieces of cake.
Using our pride matrix, using kind words, working on assignments, hard work, and helping others, I have earned t-shirts, chips, and eating lunch outside. Nights display positivity, open-minded to learn, asking questions, keeping going even when difficult. So like, you get positive points for, like doing your work, being on task, being on time, not being late for class. Then you can spend your points like this, get this nice, pretty t-shirt.
Nice display respect, following instructions given, listening to teachers and peers, using kind words. When you do those things, you can get Live School points. You can go outside and play football with your friends and earn other cool items.
Nights display integrity, being honest, working on assigned tasks, looking out for your peers. And how I do that is I get Live School points for doing those things, and with my Live School points, I like to go outside and eat outside.
Nights display dependability, arriving to class on time, bringing all necessary materials, and helping others.
When I display dependability, I hope to earn Live School points and get a pizza party with my friends.
Nights display excellence. When we are completing our work to the best of our ability, but letting others know what we need. Last year, I earned a bunch of Pure Mess t-shirts, and this year I hope to earn more.
So, again, thank you for the opportunity for us to share. With the help of Heidi and Dustin, we're going to continue our efforts. We know that we have a lot of work yet to do, just a lot in the self-reflection and how we can really make sure and ensure that our students are, living this out every day. But I think, I hope that you all agree that we have a solid foundation in place to get this work done. So, thank you for your time.
Have you gotten any feedback from the parents on this at all?
Yeah. So Marley, I'll let Marley go into detail about our Pbis committee last year.
Yeah, so like I said, we had our Pbis committee, and so we were able to have a couple of parents that joined in that committee, and they actually were a great sounding board. We sort of developed the Pbis matrix to start off the year as just sort of a starting off point. I was mainly the one that worked on that and aligned it with Ohio's social and emotional learning standards. And then throughout the year, we met as that committee, and I think made our matrix even better. And actually, the one mom that was on the committee, she was the one that came up with our, in our excellence now, we have what we call showing excellence in all things, and that's where students get, instead of just 1 positive point, they get 5 positive points for going above and beyond and getting that additional teacher recognition. And through that, it's actually really cool. I get an email notification as well, so that this way I can go and find the student and try to, make sure to say, like, I saw that you got this. Today I had one teacher that had 4 students that did it, and I sent her an email right away. I said, send them all down. They get to pick out a piece of candy. And it was actually our parent representative that came up with that. So that's really fantastic. Along with that, through the Live School app, every single student has their own individual code. So parents can download the Live School app themselves, punch in that code, and they get real-time notifications on how it is that their student is doing in school. They get to see both the positive and the negative. So that's been a really helpful communication piece. And I know teachers have used it to track student behaviors as well. And so when they make those parental phone calls, they're using that to talk about as well. Like, well, these are the things that they're doing really well. Here are some aspects that we would like to work on.
Great.
Yeah.
Brad, are you extending this program, the knowledge of this program, to the other middle schools?
For sure.
Have they been receptive to this?
Yeah, so this is a district-wide initiative, right? And this is one of the things that I've got a really good collaborative deal with Kevin and Ali.
Good.
And we do a lot of things to kind of be sounding boards for one another. I think we're all in similar places, and to have the addition of intervention coaches placed in those buildings this year. I know Marley was meeting with Coleraine Middle's intervention coach today, just collaborating on, how things are going. And, she had a wealth of experience in her previous position running Pbis programming in a different district. So the collaboration is there. All 3 middle schools are on board. Every school in the district is on board. This is just kind of where we are in our journey with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, just a couple things, Mark. We had a presentation at our board meeting last week on our Natural Science Center building, brand new building out there, and it will be done hopefully for the start of school in September of 2022. And then October 4th and 5th, I'll be up in Columbus meeting with the representatives from Hamilton County and Butler County just to kind of see the layout of what they've got in mind for education at the state level. So at the next meeting, I'll have more what we went over and what they are saying. All right? That's it.
Thank you, sir. Are there any submissions for employee organizations?
There are none.
All right, that brings us to community comments. So the Northwest Board of Education welcomes the opportunity to listen to Northwest Local School District residents' comments, suggestions, and concerns on educational issues. It is important to remember that the board conducts meetings in public, but the meetings are not a public forum. The intent of the meeting is to allow the board to complete its needed business. Northwest Board of Education meetings are conducted using Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised. Most matters which fall under the jurisdiction of the board may be addressed during the community comments section in the order of business. The board will not discuss negotiations, personnel, in open session. Any concerns and comments about individuals ought to be brought to the attention of administration. A school district cannot discuss personal student information, whether or not discipline was imposed on a student, nor the reason for that decision, because disclosure would be a violation of state and federal law. The following guidelines will be used for public commentary at the board meetings. Individuals wishing to address the board must complete and submit a request to speak form to the board president prior to the beginning of the meeting. Individuals will preface their comments by an announcement of their name, address, and group affiliation if applicable. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak on agenda items of any topic during the community comments. Public commentary is confined to that portion of the agenda. Individuals will be recognized to speak once on a given topic. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may individually address or question the board members district administration, or members of the public in attendance. No response to the speaker will occur from board members, district administration, or members of the public in attendance during this time. Appropriate follow-up by the district administration may occur at a later time if warranted. No more than 15 minutes total will be devoted to the public participation unless the board votes unanimously to continue discussion. Repetitive statements may be ruled out of order by the presiding officer, and the presiding officer has the right to terminate the participation of any individual or individuals if the person violates the rules of good order. Laws of the state of Ohio determine the powers and duties of the Board of Education, the superintendent, and the CFO treasurer. And I just want to take a moment to speak about the last meeting. It got a little out of hand. I was kind of appalled by some of the behavior that we had. And I'm speaking for me as the president, not the board collectively. Let me just clarify that. We are to respect each other and show grace. We made concessions for everybody to have their time to speak, and we were not allowed our time when it came to board comments. We did follow up on some of the comments, and Darrell will speak to that later. But we will have order. That what happened last board meeting will not happen again. You'll be asked to leave immediately. So with that, tonight we have two requests to address the board, and the first is Gwen Westrick. Gwen, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Gwen Westrick. I have 2 kids in our district. I'm here to talk about the mask mandates. I was not here at the last meeting, and I will not be getting out of control. I'm a little out of shape for that anyway, so I will not be getting out of control. But I will say that perhaps some of that comes from parents who feel so passionately and perhaps feel passionately about a topic that they feel like our district's not hearing them about. So I will start by saying that because we're in school, and in the fashion of speaking at school, I think I would be helpful to speak to the administration and the board as if you're the student and I'm your teacher. So today's lesson discusses facts about masks and COVID. Let me put on my glasses here. I am getting that old. So number 1, masks do not stop the spread. Number 2, there is no real evidence that masks work. In fact, there's plenty of evidence that they don't. Number 3, our school board is going off of last year's protocol guidelines before there was more exposure and before staff and students could be vaccinated if they chose to. This doesn't seem fair. Number 4, we're dealing with a virus that will never be cured and it will never go away. It's just a basic fact. As a side note, those who are double vaxxed under the assumption that they won't get it or get it as bad is misleading because currently, and this is a fact that you can all find, over 70% of hospitalizations are those who have been double vaxxed. So this idea of curing this, it's not happening. Number 5, the school board overrode our parental choice and we want it back. We want to have a say in what our children wear on their faces. We want to have a say whether or not our children get vaccinations or whether or not our children wear masks at school. I cannot say that any clearer. Number 5, sorry, I did say number 5. To go on to that point, in addition to wanting it back, to be reminded that our kids are in your care, but they are not under your control. We do not want the school to impose on our children's freedoms. Number 6, our district claims to follow health guidelines. And so if this is true, then why is it a mandate through Northwest Local School District when it's just a recommendation through the CDC and the Ohio Department of Health? We would like to have that answered. And number 7, a final lesson to ponder. Masks have become a symbol of social responsibility. The idea that they protect not just their wearers, but also the people around them seems wonderfully selfless. So if masks work, then we should have 0 transmission. They don't work, plain and simple. And again, we want our choice back. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Next is Stacey Danielson.
I spoke at the last meeting, and again, I'm coming to you and asking the same thing. Similar to what Gwen said, to unmask our kids, give us back our choice. We want our choices back for our kids and what our kids put on their face and don't put on their face. We, again, like Gwen said, we were surveyed and 60% of the parents and 60% of the staff wanted that to be optional, wanted masks to be optional. And then you guys came back and the superintendent and his staff came up with a plan of indicators that included using specific zip codes in the district that does not include all the zip codes. And according to information that I had heard, that if you used all of the zip codes that were pertaining to our school district, then the numbers would be lower. And I'm not sure where that came from. I have a concern with that. I have a concern with using student cases. The number of student cases that came up as the benchmark from last year, it's very low. And so then that's going to set us up to hit those indicators. Using student quarantines, which is 75, that's very low too, especially concerning the whole school district. Staff positive cases, which I know we're below right now, that's still very, very low. And when I look at the indicators right now in the school district, I see that you guys mandated it or said that it would be across the board the same at every school. And right now, I'm just picking a school, Pleasant Run has 2 positive cases for the students, 6 in quarantine, 0 quarantine staff, 0 positive staff cases. But yet we're mandating and imposing all of these indicators and all of these, the plan of action. It seems overkill. Each school is different, and I know it would be challenging to do it school by school. And so I have some issues with those. But really and truly, I think that those just need to be thrown out or need to be changed and choice given back to parents. So I'm asking again to unmask our kids. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Stacey. That brings us to the adoption of superintendent consent items.
So tonight, for the consent items, we have under personnel, 6 resignations, 11 initial appointments, and 8 change in statuses. Under vendor contracts, we have a variety of contracts related to Title I services and special education. And then 2 donations, one for Black Lodge at Pleasant Run Middle School, and then Side by Side has done an entire district-wide donation. So we appreciate their continued partnership. With that, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the adoption of the superintendent consent items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Just want to thank Side by Side and anyone that donates. All the donations are certainly appreciated and always put to good use.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Superintendent consent items passed 5-0. That brings us to the adoption of fiscal consent items.
Yes, good evening. First, I'd like to ask you to dispense with reading of and approve the September 13th regular meeting minutes. And we also have our August financial statements, which include our all funds balance of $76.9 million, our general fund balance of $38.4 million, and this is up from the $16 million that we had at the end of July. Our revenues and expenditures, our revenues are trending at $33.3 million for the year, which is at 33% of our projected target, and that is because we receive our taxes twice a year, which is the majority of our revenue. And our expenditures are right on target with 2 months at $13 million. Our investment weighted average return is 0.4, and our list of monthly bills are routine monthly bills, as well as we purchased some Chromebooks and some technology supplies. We have our instructional coaching, which is our ESSER focus for the next couple of years. We have transportation software and some auxiliary grant and grant fund payments. we also have two that are now certifications over $3,000. One was from a prior year invoice that didn't have the full amount in the purchase order, and another one is for an annual contract that the purchase order wasn't completed for yet. So, and then finally, to ask the board to accept, approve, and appropriate a grant for Colerain High School for their children's theater that they receive on annual basis. So with that, I'd like to ask the board to approve the consent items, fiscal consent items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions or comments? Fiscal consent items passed 5-0.
Next, I'd like to ask the board to approve our fiscal year permanent appropriation resolution. Each year, the board is required to approve our permanent appropriations by October 1st. So that would be all funds of $151 million. So with that, I'd like to ask the board to approve the permanent appropriation resolutions as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Appropriations passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent update?
Just a couple of things. Montford Heights Elementary has a new traffic pattern for arrival and dismissal due to some paving that's happening at Sam's. So I just want to thank everyone for their patience as we have tried to create a pattern that is kind of meeting the guidelines that we have and trying to get people in and out of there safely. So we appreciate everyone's patience as we continue to implement that new traffic pattern, and hope that people continue to kind of show a little bit of grace as we work through some of the hiccups in that. It will be going through the entire month. Hopefully as soon as Sam's is done, we'll get back to our normal pattern, but until then, please exercise patience and caution at arrival and dismissal. Want to just thank our staff who on September 10th, we did the professional development day to try to respond to changing guidance around quarantines and have them really analyze space to create the maximum amount of distance. The week prior to us doing that, we had 222 school-based quarantines. The week afterward, we had 31. So I do want to thank the staff for all the work they did. I know changing classrooms setup can be very personal for people, and I appreciate that everyone kind of put aside that and did what was best for the kids to keep them in school. This week, the numbers did go up to 85. There were some specific situations that caused that to be a little bit higher this week. But we're still well under what other districts are quarantined at this point, and I really appreciate the staff working with us on that. I do want to acknowledge Corrigan High School right now. We had a situation this past week where on Thursday night a decision had to be made by Middletown to change the venue for the Corrigan High School football team. And I just want to give kudos to Matt Stoynoff and the entire Corrigan High School team for turning that around and hosting a game in less than 24 hours. The amount of work that has to go into setting that up, getting all of the staff to be at the ticket booth, the announcers, the boosters who jumped in and ran concessions on a moment's notice. It is a massive ordeal to put that on, and I just want to thank all of the people at Corrigan High School staff and the boosters who came together and made that happen in a very short timeline, and we appreciate that. Want to make sure everyone is aware of a very important meeting on Wednesday of this coming week, day after tomorrow. We will be hosting a community forum. We have been meeting with our community groups, a community advisory team, and an educational visioning team as we continue to work on trying to update our 2014 master facility plan. Really looking at what do our teachers and our staff need in order to teach in the future. What does next year and the next 10 years and the next 20 years look like in terms of changing dynamics and landscape in education? And how do we as a district respond to that and provide spaces where our staff and our students can engage in that kind of learning? And we have a community advisory team that is really analyzing the facilities, the renovation costs, the replacement costs, the buildings themselves, to really try to merge the vision for education with the spaces that we have. And these two teams have been working simultaneously, but they have been influencing each other as we have gone through this process. And on Wednesday, we're going to meet with our community again, as we did it when this process started, and said we're going into this process. As we come out of the process, we want to inform the community what the teams have been dreaming about in terms of what education and the future of education in this district could look like. And so we encourage everyone on Wednesday night at 6 to 7:30, get confused, board meetings are 6:30, this is 6 to 7:30, an hour and a half of your time to really zoom in with us. The link is on the homepage of our website. So if you go to our website, at the top there's a red bar, and it is talking about that meeting with a link that you can click to that will take you to the Zoom invite. We encourage everyone, whether you are a parent, a student, a staff member, a community member who just lives in the community and wants to know what's going on in terms of school. We need everyone's input, because this plan is not about tomorrow, and it's not about the kids who are in our building now. It's about the kids who will be coming up, the kids and the families who are yet to move into the community, and we need to make sure that we build an educational system that attracts the families. So we encourage everyone to be involved in that process. After that meeting is going to be a survey. We need everyone to complete that survey. So if you're in that meeting, please make sure that you get that link for the survey to your neighbors, to anyone else in the community, so that as many people as possible give their input. We truly do need a plan that is educationally sound, community supported, and fiscally responsible. And we need everybody's input in order to make sure we meet those three objectives. So please, 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 as I beg you to join that meeting and be involved in the decisions that impact the future of our district. The last thing that I will say is, at the last meeting, we did have someone who asked a question about masks in relation to the Ohio Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 21. And that section says, no federal, state, or local law or rule shall compel, directly or indirectly, any person, employer, or healthcare provider to participate in the healthcare system. And it was postulated at the meeting that because we're in masks, that the district was, in fact, establishing a healthcare system. So we did do some research, and we asked for some legal guidance on this question to make sure that we had the appropriate answer to give. The answer that we got was that basically in the law, a healthcare system is defined as any public or private entity or program whose function or purpose includes the management of, processing of, enrollment of individuals for, in full or in part, healthcare services, healthcare data, or healthcare information for its participants. And based on the definitions that are in law, the district doesn't meet the definition of a healthcare system, and that the law does grant the board the ability to set rules for the way it operates schools and to make rules that are necessary for the governments for pupils and employees. And masks do fall under that guidance that has been given. So we are within our legal right to do the mask. It doesn't constitute a healthcare system, but we did want to respond to that because people did ask a sincere question, and we want to make sure we give everyone answers. So with that, that's all the updates I have tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Daryl. Anybody have any questions for Daryl? All right, that brings us to board member comments. Joe?
And I want to thank the two bus drivers there, because masking and everything else associated with COVID. But you guys did that. So I do appreciate it. Second thing is I want to thank Brad Watkins for that presentation. Great. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is the two speakers. I am not trying to tell you how to raise your kids or to make that decision of mask or not. I do make the suggestion that the superintendent closely monitor the data with transparency and relay that message to all parents, all of you guys. And I implore you to email the superintendent with your concerns. The last thing I want to talk about is possibly another survey to see where the parents in the district stand as far as this non-masking. And that's all I have. I want to thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, I just want to thank Joe Pollitt for the eulogy for Paul Wade. I didn't know Paul, but everybody I've talked to was at Northwest just loved the guy, and he did a great job. And I appreciate Joe giving that eulogy, and condolences to his wife and his mother that was here tonight. And I just wanted to thank Brad and Marley for their presentation. It was very important that we get to hear that, and it is district-wide, so all of the middle schools are doing the PBIS system. Other than that,
I'd like to congratulate both high schools for putting on wonderful parades and homecomings. Unfortunately, it made it a little tricky with both of them being on the same night to get to both. Had the opportunity to participate in the Northwest Parade and go to their game, and it's just always fun to see all the kids lining the streets and how excited they get, and it takes a lot of volunteers to put that together and have the cars for the kids and the candidates for the court and stuff, so great job. I also heard great comments from both schools with the dance on the football fields. It was a little different, but it sounds like everybody had a great time, and thank goodness that the weather cooperated and it was a beautiful night for them. And then also I want to echo what Jim said. I think Joe did a great job with the eulogy. I too didn't know Paul. I know several people that did and actually ran with him, and just heard a lot of great things about him. So condolences to the entire family. And that's all.
Thank you, Jim. Matt?
Yeah, kind of ditto what's already been said. I'd like to thank Joe Pollitt for the eulogy of Paul Wade, and I also appreciate the presentation from Brad and Marley. And it's always nice to hear from the kids and hear from the students in the video like that. Thank you.
I just want to condolences to the Wade family. Amidst all the back and forth of masks, no masks, losing somebody who has impacted our children puts things in perspective. There's a lot of Paul Wades in our school district who really touch kids, and as his wife spoke, that he kind of found his passion late in life. And we have a lot of folks that it's not so much a paycheck to them as it is a calling. And I want to thank their family for, Daryl, as you said it, letting us have Paul. I personally have never met him, but it only takes a couple minutes to hear what he's accomplished to find out his impact on our children. Thanks to Brad and Marley. I think anytime we reinforce the behavior we want out of the kids is definitely a positive program. And I just want to thank the speakers for coming. We do hear you, and we try to follow up on what we can. And that's about that. At that point, we'll adjourn our meeting. Motion to adjourn? Motion and second. Thank you. Thank you all for your attendance.